Season 1 of Off the Dribble, the Byron Scott Podcast, is brought to you by Netfaka.
Well, hello there. It's just me and the world's best tasting vodka.
Hey guys, what's happening? This is Off the Dribble with Byron Scott. My special guest today, one of my boys, legendary, 5-time NBA champion, 8-time All-Defensive Team. Oh my God! I mean, this dude, Player of the Year, 1987. Not Player of the Year. I'll take that back. Defensive Player of the Year in 1987. That's the year we also won our second championship together. My special guest, no other than my main man, Michael Cooper.
B, you making me blush by saying that. You know, hey, I can't get no darker than I am right now.
You might get a little shade darker, but we got to toast my boy Cooper. I'm just telling y'all, so we're going to have a quick little drink.
Thank you for having me, B.
Listen, you guys don't understand. This man right here, in my opinion, still the greatest defensive player I've ever been around. I learned so much from playing with Coop and watching him, how he guarded guys back in the day. And I would ask questions on how he would guard certain guys. Had no fear whatsoever in guarding whoever it was on the floor from 1 to 4. Coop, we talked about this a long time ago when I asked you, how are you so damn good defensively?
Well, B, everybody's not blessed to have a pretty picture-perfect jump shot like you did, so I had to take the other route. But again, I think all my learning comes from in high school and college. I was very blessed to have a great high school coach, George Turgeon, who passed away like 3 years ago, who taught me the fundamentals of defense. And then moving on to the University of New Mexico, Norm Ellenberger taught me the tenacity side of it. So then going to the Lakers, when I first got with the Lakers, B, they told me we got Kareem, Norm Nixon, Jamal Wilkes. I don't need nobody else shooting the ball. I need people to stop it. So that's how I kind of like got into the forte of being a good defensive player. But you know, anything you do starts from when you're early age. Right, so it just grew into that. Well,
let's go back to your early age, because I know when you were 3 years old, you had a serious injury, to your leg, and it required like 100 stitches. And the doctors, I know they told your parents that you probably wouldn't walk again. So that tenacity of being able to get from, first of all, did you even know that when you were that, obviously 3 years old, you didn't know it, but later on, did your parents tell you that the doctor said that you probably wouldn't walk again?
Well, yeah, they told me that, my grandmother. But you know what, my grandmother being very religious, B, I think it was more of the power of prayer because, our family was very religious. So growing up, and I fell on a coffee can, back in the day, people from down south, they wouldn't throw their grease away. They put it in a coffee can and put the chicken grease here, the other grease there. Right. So we had some dogs. Our dog had a puppy, so I was going outside in the backyard to see it. And the puppies had come up and knocked the can over. But my grandmother didn't cut the whole can top off. She left it on, so it was like jagged. Right. So when I slipped on that, right in the middle and 102 stitches, but God is good, brother.
102 stitches, end up playing in the NBA, All-American in New Mexico, them damn Lobos.
Why you say that? Because we beat up on them Sun Devils?
You beat up, not when I was there.
We went to Tempe and kicked that ass, but that's a whole nother story.
Not when I was there. Oh, because you know what? You're right, this is a whole nother story, because we did go to New Mexico and whoop y'all ass, too. I'm just saying.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there when y'all came to SU, so it's all good.
That was Tony Zeno. You remember Zeno?
I do remember Tony Zeno.
Right. Yeah, we got
Blake Taylor and those guys.
Yeah, but you know what? Arizona always had a great program. Arizona State always had a great program. But, yeah, New Mexico was a spot to be, baby.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, to this day, one of the greatest players in our generations, Larry Legend, Larry Bird, says every time anybody talks to him about, guys that guarded him back in the 80s, who was the best, he doesn't even hesitate to say Michael Cooper was the best defensive player that he ever played against. What do you think about that coming from a guy like Larry?
That's probably, of all the accolades that you could win or awards or anything like that, that's probably the one that I cherish the most. But what I always tell people about that is that you guys, Magic, Worthy, Kareem, I was only as good as you guys were giving me my help, because I knew if I went out there, and Larry got by me several times, but you were always there, B. Scott. Magic was always there. I say Magic was not a great one-on-one defensive player, but he was a great team defensive player. Yeah. You were a good one-on-one player. So it was like me and you tag teaming on these great scores. But when Larry says something like that, that kind of puts cross the T, dot the I, that kind of like puts all that together for me. And you know what? It's he was a handful, and you knew that too. But that's one that kind of like, you know, makes me pat myself on the back and know the job well done. But the job that I did wouldn't have been great without you guys, my teammates.
Well, we appreciate that, Coop, but that's bullshit. You was a bad boy. Defensive man, come on, man. I mean, I
had to be like y'all was like, shooting the ball all the time.
Would lock down people like it wasn't nothing. And the thing that I loved about you, Coop, it was 1 through 4. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Coop would guard point guards, 2 guards, small forwards, power forward. It didn't matter. You know, the only position I never seen you guard was center. You know, and you probably could have did that if Rouse would have asked you to. But from 1 through 4, you go out there and you took it as a challenge and pretty much locked people down.
You know, B, I was blessed to be 6'7", long arms, skinny. And I think that helped too. But again, it always goes back to my college coach, because Ellenberger was the one that was like yelling and spit coming out of his mouth. And Coop, and this is just our whole team, but Coop, you got to become one with that guy. And you know what? That kind of set the fire going right there. And then coming to the Lakers, you know, I wasn't thought of as a great offensive player. Right. So the fun part I had about it is every night, and it started with you, and then it was my turn. We had great challenges, man. Yeah. George Gervin, David Thompson, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge. We had a challenge every single night. So that to me was like, okay, let me see, put my skills against theirs, and I was going to try to become on top at the end. Yeah.
Well, I thought you did a great job all those years, Coop. It was a pleasure and honor playing with you. There's no doubt about that. The friendship has...
well, can I say this first, B?
What?
And again, just before
I know
you
you're
got
gonna
there,
start something.
Yeah, I'm going to. That's what I do. I'm a rabble rouser. When you came on the team, and I'm going to say this.
I remember this.
As a defensive player, Magic, all the other guys, we came at you hard because obviously you were replacing Norm Nixon. I know we'll get into that later, but I just want to throw this out there. I like the fact, I always tell people this. People were like, well, what did you think of Byron when he got there? Well, you know what? The statement that you made before you got with the Lakers and you said, Magic Johnson, fuck that, I'm Magic Johnson. I'm better than him. That right there put us on edge. Mm-hmm. So when you finally came to the team and we were trying to knock you down and beat you up, and B, you know what? You weathered the storm. So I'm going to ask you, what did you think of my defense? And don't lie. Tell the truth.
I'm going to tell the truth. First of all, you were tough as hell. It was hard to get by you. You were stronger than people thought. Mm-hmm. I always say, Coop had that wiry strength. And you talk so much shit that I used to be like, man, I just want to score to shut him up. You know, that's all I want to do. And then you was throwing elbows, and you had them sharp old elbows too. So I loved your defense. I didn't love it at that time because, you guys were testing me, obviously, and I understood that coming in, that you and Magic especially, were going to go at me, especially hard. So I understood that. So I didn't take it personal. But I also, at the end of the day, I was like, this is going to make me a better player because I got to go against Coop every day. And if I can get by him, ain't nobody in the league that can guard me.
Well, B, you know what? You weathered the storm, my brother.
Right on,
and
Coop.
You stay strong, and that's why we always respect you. My greatest moment in my NBA career, and you probably had this picture too. I think Andy shot that picture of the Three Musketeers as me, you, and Magic. Mm-hmm. And you know what, B? I have that hanging. And anytime I get a little disappointed because, you look at the NBA now and you kind of say, okay, I can do this or that. That picture right there puts me back to reality because we were 3 good-ass players, man.
Yeah,
and we could cover just about all 5 positions. I mean, you could play 1 or 2. I could play 1, 2, 3. Magic could play 4 or 5. That picture brought it all home to me. And I'm glad that you got on the team, brother, because without you, we probably wouldn't have won those 3 championships that we got with you.
Well, Cooper, I appreciate that. Nothing but love.
Now we're stroking each other.
Let's move on. So, everybody in L.A., when Coop comes in town or comes around, if they see you on the street, see you in the gym, it's, Coop, I know that feels good, first of all, that you got so much love from L.A. And then it resonated on the court because you had the Cooper Loop. Now, how did that start? How did the Cooper Loop get started?
That was started because when Magic got on the team my first year in 1980, and again, you know, he had been doing that at Michigan State with Greg Kelser. Right,
throwing them lobs, right.
When we were playing and people weren't paying too much attention to me on the offensive end, Magic came up and he said, Coop, we got to find your stick. We got to find your way to score, because I wasn't shooting the basketball, and I deferred to you guys. Eventually you came there, but I was always throwing the ball to Jamal, and Magic was like, "Hold, Coop, I'm the assist man. You got to score." So that's how it came about. And we just made eye contact one day, coming down that right side, and he threw it up. And Magic goes, "Great alley-oop, Coop." Chick Hearn's the one that tapped the Cooper Loop. So, you know, you remember great Chick Hearn and his Chickism. So that's how it became a play. And then Rouse made it a play because it was just an option. Rouse turned it into a play.
Started drawing up wild plays for you. And then when I came on the team, he started drawing them up for me because nobody in the league knew at that time I could jump, you know, when I first got there. So it was...
Well, we did, because you had dunked on a couple of us in practice.
Y'all did,
so we kind of knew what Big B could do. You know, one of his names.
Baby B, baby. So our Showtime era, we all know that's one of the greatest eras in basketball. You know, I think we both are probably a little, you know, biased as far as, you know, I still think our 87-88 team is the greatest team of all time. You know, I know there's some other teams. You could talk about Chicago's team. Obviously, you could talk about the Golden State Warriors.
We whoop all this ass, man.
Thank you.
They going right now.
Thank you.
And we would whoop that Golden State team. We would beat the Chicago Bulls team. And we should have. And had you and Magic gotten hurt, especially you, B.
Detroit team.
88, we would have whooped
that Detroit team.
I don't call them the bad boys. I call them bad kids. And they hate when I say that. But we would have kicked that ass too, B. And all this that they got going now, you know, I know we're going to get to the current Lakers, but that Laker team, the one in the bubble, we would have whooped their ass too, man.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. No, we on the same page. So I'm gonna go back to, give me some of your fond, and I know it's not just one, but give me some of your fondest memories of the Showtime teams.
I think just the crowd. I love the fact that we played at the Forum. I don't think we would have had that same aura, allure, whatever you want to call it, had we been at Staples Center, because the Forum was real intimate. It was close setting. The fans were right there up on us. They could reach out and touch us. You can hear them. But I think if I had any memories was finally beating the Celtics in 85, because, you know, us growing up here in L.A., you from Inglewood, I'm from Pasadena, all those years watching the Lakers and Celtics series, and Lakers never could get over that hump. So 85 would be probably my most glorious moment, because we did something that no Laker team could do and helped us get over that. 87 was fun because we were able to get back at the Celtics again and put another notch under our belt against them. And then with the accolades, and everybody wants certain kind of accolades through there, but being named Defensive Player of the Year, those are some of the high points for me among many, many more.
Yeah. Man, you know, it's so cool because we can reminisce and go back to so many things. And you know.
Can I ask you a question, Bill?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Okay. There was so many memories in 85 and 86, 87. And 86 was even a glorious year, even though we lost. It was fun. Another glorious moment for me was the Forum Club. Tell me about your thoughts about the Forum Club.
You know what? The Forum Club was like the game.
That a great place, man.
Oh, because it was the game after the game.
Yeah.
So you play the Lake. You know, you play in the game. We end up winning 90% of whatever our games was at the Forum anyway. Yeah. And then after the Forum Club, you go into the Forum Club. And for you people out there that don't know, the Forum Club was just what it sounds like. It was a club.
The club,
and you could go in there. You can get food. But the thing that was great about the Forum Club is that it had some unbelievable talent in there. And as a rookie, my first year, I spent a lot of time in the Forum Club and had a lot of fun. And, you know, Coop and Magic kind of, you know, telling me what to do and what not to do.
I couldn't be in there.
That's why you kept telling me, you kept telling me don't go in there. And of course, Magic telling me go in there. So you had to walk out, you know, and Magic would walk in, and I had to go, you know, which way I want to go. Let me go in this time. So the Forum Club was a great place to just go in every now and then. And
Don't tell me who you would see in there.
Oh, you know what? You would see Jack Nicholson there. You would see Denzel Washington in there.
Diane Cannon,
who was like one of the biggest Laker fans. You would see Johnny Carson in there. You would see so much talent in there that it was unbelievable. So I enjoy going in after the games.
I think it was a great place. I'm just sorry that I didn't get the chance to explore it more. But you know what? That was a fun part about being in Los Angeles, reaping some of the benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Today's episode of Off the Dribble, the Byron Scott Podcast, is brought to you by Fashion Meets Protection, providing you stylish and innovative protective apparel while adding a layer of protection for everyday life. This unique innovation brings style to uniforms, the beauty industry, medical professions, travelers, and when fashion needs protection. All right, and Coop, so one thing that I tell a lot of people, and I don't think they get it. You know, when we used to be on the back of the bus, me, you, and Buck, and we used to talk about everything. And I mean everything. And I remember a couple of times we were on the bus and we started talking about what we wanted to do after basketball. And I remember Buck saying, "Man, they done gave the wrong you know what money, because I'm gonna turn this into billions. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur." And he'd be, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I want to coach." "Coop, what you want to do?" You said, "I want to coach too, but I want to coach women." And we was all like, "What?" And then you look at it years later, you coach WNBA with the Sparks, win 2 WNBA championships, get coach of the year in the WNBA as well. You knew then that you wanted to coach on that level. What made you, because I know why I wanted to coach. I just wanted to coach because I thought I could relate to players and get players and teach players what we had learned. What made you want to coach women?
B, isn't that mind-boggling?
That we all were able to do the things that we talked about?
That we talked about on the back of the bus. And I mean, it's absolutely scares me sometimes because it was kind of like we were talking about our destiny.
Right.
And for me at that time, I had been hearing things about the WNBA women playing. Rhonda Wyndham was was a PR department. Mm-hmm. She was a great player for USC, the Trojan women's basketball. So now that she was there, and I used to talk to Rhonda because we did a lot of things in the PR. And she was like, "Coop, there's going to be a women's league, there'll be a women's league." And I don't know, B, I just always felt that it's about giving back to the game that we learned so much from, and God has given us a special talent to play and excel at a high level. But I just always suited myself. I knew my communication level with women would be a lot better. So I just kind of felt that way. And man, it turned out to be exactly like you said. I remember that day too.
Yeah,
I remember that ride on the bus, man, and we all talked about that. And you went on to be, a great coach in Indiana and then coaching the Lakers. And Magic doing what he did, He did it on another level as far as really making a moment not only for an African-American former player, but just a person that came from nowhere to become something bigger than life.
Right.
And not just a basketball player, but a businessman.
Right.
Or Magic would say a businessman.
A businessman.
Yeah. But that scares me when I think about that.
I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to turn all this money into billions. And we was like, "Oh, okay, well, you go ahead and be a billionaire. Be a businessman. Be a businessman, Magic." But
what did you feel about giving back to the game, B?
You know what? Cool, kind of the same thing. I always looked at coaching as giving back to the younger generation, things that I've learned, and hopefully not allowing them to make the same mistakes that I made, growing up. So I always, from a basketball standpoint, life in general, I would always tell my players, as I'm sure you did as well, I got an open door policy. You can talk to me about anything, not just basketball, but, life outside of basketball, what you want to do after basketball, family situations, all those things are open because I've done all those things. I've lived that, so if I can help you, get away from some of these potholes, that's what I'm here to do. So I took a big, sigh of relief when we all sit back there and we talked. I was like, wow, man, I can't believe we're all doing the things that we talked about doing. We prophesized these things back on that bus and they all came to fruition. So I'm just as blessed as everybody else, and especially you and Buck, because these are things that we talked about as players, way before our careers were over.
Who's the hardest player for you to coach?
Hardest player for me to coach? Oh, man.
Now, you coached some great ones.
I've had some good ones. The hardest player.
Did you coach Reggie Miller?
I coached Reggie. No, I played with Reggie. Didn't coach Reggie.
Okay.
You know, I coached Kenyon. I coached Jason Kidd. Yeah. I coached Baron Davis, Chris Paul. You know, Chris Paul might have been the easiest superstar I ever had to coach.
Yeah. The great ones are, man. When they buy into the system.
You know, Kenyon might have been one of the hardest to coach, you know, because Kenyon had a way of doing things. But once he got involved in the game or practice, whatever, then he give you everything you got.
You had him at the
I had him in Jersey.
Yeah. Okay.
And, you know, I was like, look, man, you know, Kenyon would come them days where he's like, Coach, I'm T.I. Red. I was like, you what? I'm T.I. Red, tired. Can't practice today. I swear to God, you been with Coach Kenyon, right? But he come to me, he'd be like, I'm T.I. Red. I said, T.I. Red? Yeah, tired. Can't practice today. I said, oh, okay. So I developed a thing with our strength coach. I said, okay, if guys can't practice, I said, I want you to tear their ass up. I want you to work them so hard, you know, that they don't want to be with you. Yeah. So I was like, all right, Kenyon, you know, going over there with such and such, you know, he's going to just work you out today and blah, blah, blah. About a week later, he came, Coach, T.I. Red today. I said, all right, we're going over there. He said, no, I'll practice. So Kenyon, as much as I love Kenyon, he might have been one of the most difficult guys to coach because, you know, it was just hard getting him to practice. But you know once he practiced, he was great.
Yeah, and the thing I found out about Kenyon is that guy gave it to you in the game.
Every time.
He gave it to you. So like I was in Denver, he wasn't one of the hardest coaches. I'm a coach. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But the one thing I respect about him, if he gave it all to me in the game and he came in, he never said that, but he's like, Coach, I can't go today.
He never told you he was T.I. Red?
No, I ain't never heard that.
But see, now you had him a little bit later. I had him his first 3-4 years. Yeah, so he was still young.
And cocky still.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, you had a great game, but you still going to practice. You know, so I had that type of thing with him. So me and him, and we didn't butt heads because I tell you what, like you said, Kenyon Martin, when that ball was thrown up, Kenyon Martin gonna give you 110%, and he gonna go after people. And I love that about him. I loved his toughness. I loved his grit, and a hell of a defender. His damn self. I mean, he can guard multiple positions as well.
Wasn't afraid of nobody.
Wasn't afraid of nobody. I mean, that kid had no fear, and one of the smartest players I had. You know, but just getting him to practice and getting him ready to get for, it was like pulling teeth, Coop. It was like pulling teeth. But I love Kenyon. But now let's go back to you because you're still, I think, the only player in NBA history to win an NBA championship, WNBA championship. You even coached in the NBADL League and won a championship. How do you feel about that? Those achievements right there are special. How do you feel about it? Because you, as far as I know, you're the only one that's done that.
You know what, B? Those are championships are things that are done through the course of you learning. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, and I know you tested this too, I never set myself apart from where I knew everything. I was always learning. So to get with the WNBA, and one of the hardest persons, we haven't heard yours yet, but we're going to get back to you on that. One of the hardest players I've ever had to guard was a young lady named Alicia Milton.
Oh, wow.
She reminded me of myself. She was out of Florida. We used to call her D Nasty. And man, you could tell her something. She wasn't, D was, I used to call her my special child because she was so erratic. I don't know if she's going to want to hear that. But one of the toughest players I've ever had the opportunity to coach women-wise, a lot of guys. Right. But you know what? She was one of the hardest because I would tell her something and she would look at me and shake her head and go out there and do something totally different, you know. And all I could do was shake my head. But I want a lot of thanks to Lisa Leslie, who I call Smooth, because Smooth kind of kept her in check a little bit. But she would be probably the hardest person. I had an opportunity at Denver to coach Carmelo Anthony and Kenyon Martin. Carmelo Anthony's a handful too. He was a brother on another level. And I had him when he was young. But D Nasty would probably be one of the hardest players I've had to coach. Great young lady. Away from the court, lovely, sweet, would hug you, do anything for you on the court. That woman was something else, man. But who was the hardest player? You haven't told us who was the hardest player you had to coach.
And I am. Coop, I had it easy.
Did you have Eldon Campbell?
Okay. I had it easy.
Harris had him.
Yeah. I'm serious. I had it pretty easy.
The Lakers, second, nobody in that group? All right.
Nah, I
say that then.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers didn't give me no problem.
Yeah.
They knew better.
They all thought I was good. Chris Paul already told most of them, Coach crazy.
Yeah.
He'll coach will fight you. So I really didn't have any guys that I would consider extremely hard to coach, you know, and I think a lot of it is because a lot of the guys I had were young, you know, very impressionable, and the ones that didn't listen, I just kind of said, all right, you know, I got somebody else over here that want to play anyway, so sit your ass over there. I'll get somebody else in.
You know what, B? You should try coaching in the D League, which is now the G League, because I had the opportunity to coach in that, the Albuquerque Thunderbirds, and I had a player down there named Andreas Gliniadakis. You remember him? The big Greek, played with the Cavaliers, but I also had a player named Chuck Hayes.
I remember Chuck Hayes, yeah.
And Chuck got drafted by the Houston Rockets, but he had messed his ankle up.
Okay.
So the group I had in Albuquerque, man, you know, in the D League or G League, there's something wrong with your game that's stopping you from
getting to the
next step.
level.
So my job down there, and I think our team affiliates were Orlando Magic and the Cavaliers at the time. Okay. So they were our send down people.
Okay.
And those guys down there was a different breed. Travel is different. But you know what? The one thing I told them, I said, listen, if you guys do what I asked you to do, I can guarantee you I'll vouch for you to get to the NBA. Man, Chuck Hayes did everything I asked that kid to do. Remember the three-line rushes Riles used to make us do?
Oh, yeah.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We got to 12 one time. I did that to those guys. Chuck ran and played his hardest, and his ankle started getting better, B. And to this day, Chuck eventually got the call up and was a big, important part of the Houston Rockets. That was the 2000s.
Right.
Chuck signed a big contract. He signed like a 4-year, $32 million. And to this day, B, and our team went on to win a championship. We ended up beating the Austin team. Dennis Johnson's team up there, Austin Toros. To this day, when Chuck signed his contract, he always tells me, every time I see him, Coach, you ready for that $1 million? I said, Chuck, man, I don't want your money, man. That's your money you earned. All I'm glad is that you're able to provide for yourself and your family. Coop, you're going to take this $1 million. And every time I see him, B, that dude is ready to write me a check
for $1 million.
But I don't want it because you know what? The gratification I got out of that is I was able to help him get an opportunity to play in the league. So
I don't know. I think I'll tell him write that damn check. Give me $500,000 or something. Yeah, Chuck, that's right. I helped your butt get up there. Yeah, give me $500,000. No, but I remember Chuck. I remember he had a nice long career, you know, in NBA as a specialist.
Yep.
I mean, the kid was tough. He was strong, undersized, but could guard multiple positions as well. You know, so he took after you, Coop. That's for sure.
Well, I try to pass that on. Now, my next venture is I've tried to win a championship in anything the NBA has to do with.
Right.
So now I'm in the Big 3.
Right.
Doesn't have the NBA on it, but it has former NBA players. So I'm working hard to get there. But these guys are a different breed there because it's not young guys. It's not great veterans. It's guys, past their prime and trying to get them to do things. But the only good thing about that is it's half court. You don't have to run to the other end.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
A lot of them probably can't run to the other end, right? That's a good one, Coop. I was going to ask you about the Big 3, and I know that you just mentioned, so we talked about it a little bit, but I want to go back a little bit to the logo, because once your playing career and you got done with some of the coaching gigs that you had, you went into being a special assistant to Jerry West. How was that?
You know what? When I got that job, and that's a well-named job in the NBA now, but when I got that job, Jerry West, special assistant to the general manager, and I like, well, Jerry, what do I do? And he was like, Coop, just do what you want to do, whatever you want to do. So I kind of got in there and fiddled around and did the drafting and stuff like that. But then one day, Jerry asked me, there was a newspaper out by the Forum Club out in that area there. He said, Coop, can you go get the newspaper for me? So I went out there and brought it back because he wanted the sports. Somebody saw it and said, oh, that's your job, special assistant? Oh, so you get the newspaper? What about donuts and coffee? I said, man, cut that shit out, man.
That's like going back to the rookie days when you had rookies at the camp.
We'll talk about that. They were vicious on me. But that job was one that I really cherished because I got a chance to be around Jerry to hear his thinking on how he looks at the game. Mitch Kupchak was young, and he was assistant general manager. And Mitch, has a brilliant mind like Jerry. Probably not as sharp, instantaneous, but Mitch is more of a thinker. Mm-hmm. Really had an opportunity to learn about dollars and cents, on who to pay the big money to, who not to pay the big money to, how to put things together financially. And you went through the same process. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. But that was some of the things that I learned, how to evaluate talent, even on another level. And I was like, Jerry, how do you find that player? He said, Cooper, you know what? He's not going to be at UCLA. He's not going to be at Kentucky. He's going to be at Southwest Louisiana. And that's the one you got to pay attention to, because everybody else is looking up here. And it's like that old magic trick. I'm going to get you to look up here, but I'm doing things down here. So that's some of the things I learned. Have you ever thought about, and I don't know if what are you thinking about as far as this is concerned, about going in that managerial type situation? I'm not that big. No, you don't want to be a GM or assistant GM or president of basketball operation? I look at people like that as not necessarily paper pushers, but that's not me. I like to be on the court, in the action. I like figuring things out on the court. And one thing that we learned from Pat Riley is attention to detail. And that's what I like teaching and learning. And that's the most fun I've ever had. The most fun I ever had was coaching the WNBA, because these women couldn't play over the rim. Right. So you had to really get those fundamentals down. So, but no, I couldn't see that. What about you? You through with basketball? Coop, I think I am, to be honest with you. I keep telling. So you totally retired from basketball? Well, I'm semi-retired. I keep saying that because, that window is still open. But from the NBA, I will say this. From the NBA, I think I'm totally retired. But I've had that feeling that I would love to coach on the collegiate level, and not, UCLA, Kentucky, Duke. I want a school where I can be somewhere and have guys for 3 or 4 years instead of, these top guys that come in for 1 year and then they're gone. Yeah, the one hitters. Yeah, I want guys that's going to be there, 3, 4 years that, that you got a chance to really help on the basketball court, but also off the basketball court. Now, your wife ain't going to let you leave town. It's got to be local, no, it's got to be, well, that's what I'm at now. She'll let me leave town, but she coming with me, and it ain't going to be too far. It's going to be it would be on the West Coast. Bro, that's right. You ain't going anywhere. That's like my wife. My wife is not leaving LA, and she like, you're not either. So it ain't like that. Now, if I go like to ASU or somewhere like that, she would let me go, but she's staying here. Because so that's what it is. No, and I would like that, because still, that same thing with your wife. Your wife ain't going to no. My wife would go. If I go to Mississippi, y'all be down there? No, she would tell me you ain't going either. Tupelo, Mississippi, she's like, nah. Anywhere east of Texas, she'll probably be like, nah, you ain't going nowhere. So that's how I am. Yeah, if it was ASU or something local here, in California, not even Northern California, just in Southern California. Yeah. Because the other thing with me, Coop, is I want to stay close to my grandkids. Yeah. I got 2 that live here in LA. I want to be able to see them on a regular basis, so that's important to me. So that's like you, Papa. Huh? I'm Papa, man. You're not Grandpa Scott? No, they call me Papa. Papa. Okay. And I told my daughter, who London, that she said, "What'd you want them to call you?" I said, "They call me whatever they want to. They can call me. I'm not thinking I'm too old or whatever to be a grandfather or whatever. Like, they want to call me granddaddy. That's fine. But they settled on Papa." And I love it. And you like it, exactly. I love being called Papa. You could stand to hear Granddaddy Scott. It wouldn't bother me that much. I think your grandkids, you're going to love them no matter what. It wouldn't bother me at all. Deep down, I don't want to hear Granddaddy Cooper. Granddaddy Michael, I don't want to hear that. My kids and they wouldn't call you Granddaddy Cooper, though. They would just say Granddaddy or Grandfather. I ain't trying to hear that either, Look, I wouldn't have minded, but I love Papa. Exactly. And then your grandkids. That's why I love my kids. I don't have any grandkids yet, B, but I have a feeling it's coming soon. Yeah. I have my 4 kids. I have Michael, who's married. He and his wife are not even thinking about it. Simone already told me when she was 15, Daddy, I'm not having kids. Really? I'm not having kids. And her husband just came back from Afghanistan. And they live in Alabama. Okay. Where he's stationed there. It's going to be Miles. Miles is my son, who's got a fiance now, and he lives in El Paso, Texas. He works at the University of Utah over the intramural. Okay. So He's going to be the one, I think.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell Miles, hurry up.
My 16-year-old better not come in talking about it.
I'm going to tell Miles, hurry up. Yeah. I remember, look, we at the Cooper Loop house, when you used to get these great parties, you know, these team parties where all the fellas would come over. You would have all the wives, all the kids. And that's something that I learned from you and Rouse. So when I became a coach, I did the same thing.
Did you?
And it formed that camaraderie and that relationship that you need to have with your players and their significant others. And I remember one of your parties that you had, Simone might have been 7, 8 years old, something like that. And I said something to her, and she looked at me, she said, "My daddy gonna kill you."
I remember y'all used to about that.
I didn't even do nothing. I just said, "Hey, Simone." She looked up to me and said, "My daddy's gonna kill you." I was scared of that girl. I was scared of that girl from that point on.
Well,
until I ran into her at the mall when she was about 17, and she was like, "Hi." I was like,
Simone's.
I was like, "Oh, we cool now."
It depends on how you catch her. She is, but London's the same way. You know, anybody mess with our daughters, man.
But my daughter never told you my daddy gonna come kill
What'd you say to her?
but I'm gonna just go back to that because I did that in Jersey. Mm-hmm. I did that in New Orleans, where I had always functions for the team. Just the basketball operations, just our basketball players, some of the people that we were always that we would see on a daily basis. And I thought it was important to keep that tradition of Easter egg hunts for the kids and Easter parties, Christmas parties, and things like that. And again, like I said, I learned that from you and Rouse. And where did you get that from, Coop?
B, that was so important because the Lakers were like family.
Right.
And that's why I think we were able to withstand a lot of, as Pat Riley calls it, the peripheral opponents.
Yeah,
people trying to get in and make cracks. I think once the unit core is intact, then people that you bring in can't help but just to fall in. But, I'm from my mom's family. My grandmother had 10 kids. They had kids. So I'm used to all that. But I think you hit it right. Rouse is the one that kind of initiated that. Mm-hmm. And that kind of like spread to us. And then it kind of went around. But Pat was real into team. Together, everyone achieves more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the heart of what Showtime was about. Is we were about a team. Yeah, we knew some night it wasn't going to be your night, but it wasn't about who's going to get it done. It's about getting it done. Right.
What do you think? Now we're going to talk about the way they played basketball today. It's totally different than when we played. Obviously, we were more of an in and out team. Let's get it started in the paint to Kareem and James Worthy, and then eventually, Buck start posting up guys as well. And we're going to play from inside to outside. Now this game is revolved into where it's more outside in. What is your thoughts on today's game and how it's been revolutionized from where we played it to now?
Norm Nixon made a good comment because we do our ABC show, but he said, Coop, the international game, the NBA didn't influence the international game. The international game influenced the NBA. So they started going over there, getting them big guys, Vlade, just to name one, coming over with the game played. And I'm from the old school, being I'm pretty sure you are. Championships are won in the paint. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Golden State Warriors broke that mold and broke it big, man. I never thought a three-point shooting team could win a championship. I never thought that. So when I look at today's game, that just shows you how the evolution of the game has come so far. Don't be surprised to see a 4-point shot out there someday.
No, I hear you.
I think it's going to happen. But you know what? The game is not as team-oriented in a sense, but it's about real talented players. And you look at the Milwaukee Bucks. A star player that can just barely make free throws, that can barely shoot a jump shot, win a championship. Yeah. And the key players on his team, I think Middleton was the best player for that mid-range shot like that. But that shows you where the NBA is headed. And I actually disliked it 2 years ago, but I'm starting to fall in love with this game, B. I really am, because the NBA is fantastic, as that old saying goes. But you can just see how the evolution of the game has changed. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I'm kind of like you, Coop. I wasn't a big fan of it. I've gotten, like you said, it's kind of grown on me now because I think Golden State has definitely busted that myth that you can't win. But the one thing that, that we have to, put in there with Golden State that a lot of people don't realize is that They were a great three-point shooting team, but they were also like the top defensive team in the NBA as well.
Which is hard.
Which is extremely hard to do. Yeah. You know, but so you put those two elements together, it's going to be tough to beat them because they can guard the heck out of you. And then they got 4 or 5 guys that can knock down threes on any given day. You know, I mean, Klay Thompson, I mean, this dude, you know, he can go 10 for 13 like that.
Man.
Steph, across half court, you got to guard him.
Yeah.
You know, so they got some legitimate guys. And then when they had KD, it was like, man, who going to beat them? You know, in this, the way they play the game today. So, you know, I think one of the things that get lost in translations with that team is the fact that they were such a great defensive team and that they were committed on that end of the floor. The offense for them was gravy, you know, just like it was for us back in the day.
Right.
You know, our wins when we won championships, Rouse would come in and talk about, you know, first 2 things that we got to do every single night: defend, rebound.
Yep.
After that is gravy. Let's get up and down the floor and have some fun.
No rebound, no rings.
No rebound, no rings. That was one of his sayings. Yep. So I don't think Golden State is that unique as far as, you know, they are the first team that can win a championship by shooting threes, but they were one of the best defensive teams in the league as well. So the game has definitely changed for me. You know, a few years ago, I was kind of like, man, I can't watch this. You know, last year, I started watching more. You know, during the bubble was hard, obviously. But last year, watching Milwaukee, you know, with Giannis, the freak Greek, you know, the Greek freak or whatever you want to call him, being able to, like you said, you know, get it off the rim, take it, get to the basket, or find guys, but shooting 57% from the free throw line, shooting 27% from 3-point line, and his mid-range game is just so-so.
Yeah.
You know, it's changed the way I look at the game now.
Who are some of the three players that you enjoy watching this year? Or in the NBA now? In the
NBA now,
yeah.
I enjoy watching Steph.
Yeah,
I really do, because I think the kid plays with such confidence, you know, and you just never know. I mean, he can miss 7-8 straight, and then boom, he can have a 20-point quarter, 30-point quarter, you know. So I really enjoy watching him. I enjoy watching Russell Westbrook. I really do, because, you know, and it's not because of the triple doubles; it's because of the passion that he plays the game with. You know, Russell's another one of those guys that he's going to take some bad shots. He's going to do some things that you don't want to, you know, that you don't want to see from a player and a coach's, you know, perspective. But the guy, you know, he leaves it all on the court every time he plays. You know, LBJ, you know, how can you not like watching him play? You know, LeBron James is just one of the greatest players of all time. You know, I had this talk with the captain. I'm still amazed that his name is not mentioned enough. He's still, to me, the greatest player that ever played. You look at high school, college, and the pros, you know, what he was able to accomplish, he the greatest player to ever play the game. But LBJ is in that, you know, that top 3, you know, and I think the way he's played his entire career and what he's been able to do, I just love watching him play, because it's not a selfish bone in his body. You know, he just wants to win. Yeah,
I think for me, the number one, my 3 players are Kyrie Irving. You know what? I hated that guy 2, 3. Not hate him, but I disliked his game 2 or 3 years ago. After watching that kid play this year in the playoffs, I got a newfound respect for him, because he comes out and he competes. And I've never seen anyone or saw anyone that can create a shot the way this guy can. I mean, he would have been a handful to guard. I mean, just because he could go off the dribble, he can shoot it left-handed, he can shoot it right-handed, but his competitive spirit is something that, you know, and you know this, B, sometimes we were guarding people. If we broke their spirit, a la Sleepy Floyd, but he eventually gave us 52. Perfect short players like that.
Yeah.
If you break their spirit, you can kind of mess with that game. You can't break this guy's spirit. So he's number one. The second one would be Kevin Durant. And the reason why I say him, he probably has the most, like Kareem, the most unguardable shot
in the game.
The shot up over his head. I don't care how, if you're tall, you're not going to be able to guard him because he's going by you.
Right.
But somebody his shorter, 6'7", or his size, he's going to get that shot off. And he's a shot maker too. The only thing I think how we would have been able to defend him would be there's certain spots he want to get to on the floor. And I think if we could have kept him away from that, that would have helped us. And last but not least, my third one is LBJ. You know, you talk about GOATs, and when people talk about greatest of all time players, you have to kind of go through the decades. But for me, I think LeBron, when I talk about a GOAT, could have played in any decade. LeBron could have played in the 60s. He could have played in the 70s. He could have played in the 80s and been effective. it wasn't just, okay, he could have did this or that. No, he could be effective in all those decades that we played. So to me, when I look at GOATs, Michael Jordan, he's another one that's a great player because I think he could have went in. But there's so many players that we call GOAT. But I have a great respect for LeBron, a guy that takes great care of his body. I think you're going to see him hang around because I think he wants to be the first player to play with his son. And his son, if you ever seen his son, I've
seen little Bronny. He can go.
Bronny can go,
little
man.
Bronny can go.
I think LeBron's trying to hang around to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if he tell Lakers, y'all better draft him, because if you don't draft him, I'm leaving. But those are my 3 greatest players. It's fun watching the NBA now.
It really is. Guys, I want to thank my main man, Michael Cooper, for coming on Off the Dribble podcast with Byron Scott. This has been a pleasure, an honor. I mean, so much fun reminiscing. Cooper, brother, thank you again.
B, you know, you have increased my palate for drinking wine. I think I'm on another level now. I'm off of Boone's Farm.
You off of Boone's Farm, you doing good.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Coop. Cody? Oh, me too, Coop. Man, that was a lot of fun, bro. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.